right, guys, moving around to the back wall here. Now you can see my very large, very embarrassing, ugly scrap wood pile. This thing grows every day and it's getting out of control and I got to do something about it. But don't worry, guys, it's going to benefit you too, because we're going to be building a scrap wood cart that's going to house most of this stuff, the plywood and everything else. All right, guys, now this is the dirty little secret of every woodworker's shop. And it's that corner that you just pile up all those offcuts and scrap wood and plywood. And after a little while, it really becomes a problem. So today we're gonna be fixing that. We're gonna be building a swing out plywood storage cart, as well as some vertical lumber storage here to get everything nice and neat and organized. But before we do that, guys, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Now let's get to work. First thing I need to do is get this area cleaned up and put some paneling on the walls to give us a good place to attach our plywood cart and lumber rack. I'm going to start by cutting down the pieces for the back of our cart, and I'll be doing that with my wind track saw. And this is optional, but I decided to cut an angle on the top corner to make it easier to get to the plywood sheets that are in our cart. Then I'm going to cut down the rest of the pieces for the middle and front sections of our cart. I'll start by cutting them to rough dimensions with the track saw and then take them over to the table saw to trim them to final size. Then I'm going to cut down some 4-inch strips that'll act as the sides and bottom of each section. You can make this as wide as you want, but for reference, you can fit about 5 3/4-inch sheets of plywood in 4 inches of space. Then I'm going to cut down the rest of my components to their final size. Now I can start assembly of the back section. I'm going to set these components in place with my 4-inch piece inside of my plywood panels, and then I secure everything together with glue and screws. You'll notice with this larger section, I'm leaving the top and one side open so I can easily slide large sheets of plywood in and out. Now I'm going to start with my middle section. My middle section is going to be 24 inches tall, and it will be closed in on both sides. So once I have these cut to size, I'm going to take these pieces over to the Craig jig and drill pocket holes that we can use to attach this to our larger back section. I'm going to lay this out on the workbench and assemble it with glue and screws. And then I can lay it in place on the front of my back section and attach it with pocket hole screws. And then I'll close that in with my middle dividing panel. Now I'm going to add one more shorter section to our cart, and that's going to be assembled and attached in the same way. And then I'll just close that in with our front panel. Now to strengthen this up, I'm going to add a second layer of plywood on the bottom, and that's just going to be attached with glue and screws. With assembly complete, we can go ahead and stand this bad boy up and see what it looks like. Only thing left to do now is add my casters to the bottom. You'll notice I'm only putting 3 wheels on this cart. That's because we are going to be attaching this to the wall, and I don't want a caster at that pivot point that could catch up while I'm pulling this thing out from the wall. All right guys, now we got our cart built. It's a pretty simple project, and you could certainly leave it just like this, put 4 wheels on the bottom, and you're done. But I'm planning to store full 4x8 sheets in this, which would be pretty top heavy, stored vertically like this. So my solution to that is to fasten it to the wall with these hinges so that it can swing out away from the wall when I need to grab plywood from it, and then swing back against the wall so it's nice and neat and out of the way when I don't need to get to it. My inspiration for this idea came from the Wood Whisperer, so I want to thank him for the idea. Now let's get this thing mounted and we'll start filling it up. Now we just need to get this attached to the wall with some heavy-duty hinges. Now this cart is going to be holding a lot of weight, so I want to make sure that I'm securing this to one of the metal studs in my wall. Once you get the first couple screws in your top and bottom hinges, you want to go ahead and swing this thing out just to make sure it's going to roll fine, and then you can continue to secure it the rest of the way. And this thing is finished. It pivots very smoothly, and I couldn't be happier with the way it looks. Now let's go ahead and get this thing loaded up with some plywood. All right guys, that is it for our plywood storage cart. I think it turned out great. It keeps everything nice and organized, but it's also super useful. You just pull it out away from the wall, grab whatever you need, and then when you're done, you just tuck it back out of the way. You'll notice I also built mine out away from the wall about 1.5 inches, so I can put a couple sheets behind it too if I wanted to. And while we were cleaning up this area, we also built a vertical scrap wood or lumber storage rack, and we did do a video on that as well, and I'll have a link to that right here at the top of the screen. As always guys, I will have links to all the tools we used in this video in the description below. I'll also be creating some digital plans for how to build this plywood cart that you can download and build for yourself, so make sure you check that out. You can also join the Patriot DIY community to see behind the scenes content, as well as get videos like this a couple weeks before the rest of the world, so make sure you check that out as well. So thanks for watching guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep that shop organized.